The American Ballet Theater Studio Company is coming to UNLV's Artemis W. Ham Concert Hall. ABT Studio Company is a training program for young dancers to become professional ballet dancers. Their programs feature a dynamic blend of classical favorites as well as newly commissioned works. Their performance is March 11th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets start at just $20. Get tickets now at pac.unlv.edu by calling 702-895-2787 or at the UNLV Performing Arts Center box office.
Recently on this podcast, I called March the second best month of the year because the wind doesn't quite rip your head off yet, but those winds, like the news, always seem to pick up more than expected. And today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by the List.Vegas editor, Andrew Corrali, and our executive producer, Sonia Cho Swanson, and we're going to take a look back at the news blowing in the wind, including the president of UNLV suddenly resigning effective immediately, those intriguing tax credits to lure movie studios to Vegas getting a hearing, and an old-school Vegas restaurant opening a new location in New York City. It's Friday, March 7th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Andrew and Sonia, welcome to the Friday News Roundup.
Hello, hello.
Hey, hey.
All right, let's just jump right into a feature we do during the legislative session called the Hot Ledge Line. Hot Ledge Line.
Hot Ledge Line. No,
you are no Sarah Lohman.
No. Can't be a
she's
She's
got
got
that
natural echo.
Yeah.
She's got that throat thing that she does. It's just so resonating. All right. Well, basically, it's something that dropped from the ledge that caught our fancy. And this past week, it was Assembly Speaker of the House Steve Yeager's proposal to add more voter drop boxes. Yeager took to Twitter because, that's how we do it here in the dankest timeline, to tell the public that AB 306, for your scorecard at home, will make vote counting faster. So if passed, Las Vegas will get 10 more of these repositories that are strong and secure like mailbox, and they will be open between the end of early voting and Election Day, so people can just dip their ballot in that gap and boop, I voted. So should be smooth sailing, right, guys?
Of course.
Sure.
You know what? Any motion to expand voter access is always just a smooth sailing, given. No debate whatsoever.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think it's going to pass unanimously. How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, as long as they're protected from Russian influence, I'm happy.
I do think, however, that there might be some amendments that are coming. Yes, but there has to be somebody inside the mailbox, a la Oscar the Grouch, checking for your ID before you can actually drop it in.
A new mascot. There you go.
Yeah. And I don't know, any other modifications to this Dropbox bill?
There has to be a puzzle on the outside, and you have to be able to solve the puzzle in under 2 minutes in order to access the slot to drop your ballot in.
Oh, nice. And maybe it could be like a puzzle of an old imploded Vegas casino. So it's almost like a little test.
Yeah, but don't do it wrong.
Yeah, don't do it wrong. Then it implodes.
It'll
implodes.
What if it engages in
in
Hellraiser-like fashion and transports you to a dimension of pain and terror?
Oh,
no,
God.
You took too far, Corrali.
Yeah,
it was good with
probably.
imploded. Sonia had the line. You messed up. All right, well, let's get to this week's news. UNLV's president abruptly departing. Andrew, we barely knew him. What's up?
Yeah. Talk about abrupt. Yeah, so UNLV president, I guess you would say former UNLV president, Keith Whitfield announced his resignation Monday. And in somewhat shocking fashion, he announced it at the conclusion of the annual UNLV Foundation dinner at the Bellagio. So, nobody remembers what the dessert was. This came as a shock to everybody, drawing gasps and exclamations of surprise.
Yeah, I bet. It was just like,
some people actually said, what? So, it was, wow. I guess, pretty low-key dramatic. And so in his public announcement...
I'm going out to my car. Goodbye.
Exactly. Yeah, basically. So in his public announcement at the dinner and at a sort of simultaneously deployed resignation letter, he said he needed to prioritize addressing some health issues going on with his mother and his grandson. But clearly there was a lot more going on.
Intrigue. So what is everyone's take on this resignation?
So a lot more going on behind the scenes. Most obviously, Whitfield was under tremendous pressure with the Trump administration targeting DEI initiatives in publicly funded universities, targeting education in general. And through that lens, UNLV just has a gigantic bullseye on its back. Mostly because UNLV is a designated minority serving institution, which means it enrolls a high percentage of racial and ethnic minority students,
Yeah.
70.3% to be exact.
I think
So
I've seen stats that we are like consistently in the top 5 most diverse universities in the country.
yeah, and so under the umbrella of MSI, minority serving institution, it's also considered an Hispanic serving institution. And so federal law gives extra funding to these types of schools to encourage diversity in higher education. So not only is, that sort of part of the big target on UNLV's back, but Trump administration is also targeting broader DEI initiatives in administration and in hiring. So they're threatening to withhold federal funding based on that. So right now, UNLV and the whole higher ed system in Nevada is trying to figure out what to do. So that was just, one of many pressures just piling up on Whitfield. Other pressures, too, from above and below. I've heard from sources that student groups found Whitfield, kind of inert and unresponsive to their concerns about everything from handling, protests to campus safety. And regents have publicly expressed doubts about his leadership as well. So I think the rumblings were that he was on his way out anyway, if not by his own hand.
Andrew, I also heard that donors, people who are giving money to UNLV, have been unhappy with the way that it's been received and applied. I mean, I think there's a lot more to this onion of a story than just, I'm out of here. So I don't know that a lot of people got to know President Whitfield or even know his name, even though he's been here for a little over 4 years. What were some of the highlights and maybe the lowlights of his tenure?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I want to give credit where credit is due. First of all, Keith Whitfield is the first Black president of UNLV, and for a minority serving institution, that's huge. He's an expert. He's a PhD in gerontology, which is the study of aging, and he has authored or co-authored over 200 papers. I mean, he's an accomplished scholar. On top of that, the UNLV has had a revolving door of presidents over the last dozen or so years. So the fact that he held on for over 4, despite it, maybe being marked by some controversy, is not nothing. And on top of that, he started during the pandemic. He started in August 2020 and took the helm of a university that was navigating how to do social distancing, keep students safe. Do we do remote classes? How do we bring all of our programming online and make it virtual? What does graduation look like? Will our students be able to graduate? And then, of course, in December of 2023, we had that horrific shooting that left 3 faculty members dead. So there were difficult challenges that his presidency addressed. And I think the shooting he addressed with grace and awareness. I'm not sure if all the UNLV campus felt that way, but they handled the public-facing aspect of this shooting quite well. I believe their public relations team actually won an award for how they dealt with the shooting.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And so then we come to lowlights. And as I think y'all know, most recently, there was huge tension over the Israel and Palestine protests on the campus. And to the point where I think a Jewish student actually recently sued the university, claiming that the university had not done enough to keep him safe. So I don't know what you guys have read about that, but that seems to be one of the biggest
that was a lawsuit that actually got filed.
Yeah, and didn't it also have to do with the university's investments and whether they were tied to Israeli companies? And so there was some tension over that as well. And I know a lot of the pro-Palestinian student demonstrators expressed dissatisfaction with him as well, because they just felt like he was trying to walk this very sort of polished PR line where everybody's happy and there weren't any substantive responses to their concerns.
Right. Initially said that he would actually release details about the investments in those firms with ties to Israel and maybe consider divesting from them. And then later he reneged on that.
Oh, well, I do know that the Trump administration is definitely taking aim at publicly funded universities and specifically with protests that have been erupting on campuses. I wonder if that was part of his decision-making to leave as well. I'm also curious what you all think are some of the new challenges that the next UNLV president will have to navigate in this current environment.
Yeah, it's going to be a tall order for the next president to navigate the next 4 years. The first and most immediate challenge to my mind is protect the university's funding. And again, for UNLV, it's kind of a double whammy because it gets extra federal money as an Hispanic serving institution. That's beyond the garden variety federal funding that the higher ed system gets, to the tune of $700 million in the last fiscal year. And so if I were hiring the next president, I would just start with the assumption and say, between President Trump's Doge and anti-DE,
rascal. Okay.
Yeah, I had to squeeze that in there. Between, the Doge and the anti-DEI campaign, I would just assume that all that funding is going away, just as an operating assumption. So I would think that the next UNLV president is going to have to be a monster fundraiser, and the portfolio is going to have to turn to things heavily favoring private grants, endowments, because federal funding is just completely in the air right now. And what does that mean? Does the funding squeeze mean the tuition is going to go up? So there are a lot of questions that the new president's going to have to deal with.
Plus, I think the university president's going to have to figure out what they'll do to protect students if ICE raids come to campus.
There's that.
That's another huge question for me.
And there's also pressure, maybe not so much in the universities as in high schools, but what gets taught and what is disallowed to be taught, lest you lose even additional funding with regard to American history specifically.
Yeah.
These are challenges I'm sure that are getting the faculty up in knots. And even when we talk about donors, Vegas is a place where donors love to be coddled, as I understand it. And so that is another kind of like a wicked little path that someone has to stay within. A lot of challenges for whoever the new UNLV president is going to be. But President Whitfield, thanks so much, I guess, for 4 years. I do know he exits with UNLV having a record enrollment of almost 30,000 students and grad students, too. And we didn't even talk about the grad student union.
And I don't know if this is a place to put in, speculation or anything like that, but I have heard that Bo Bernhard, interim vice president of philanthropy and alumni engagement, is a prime candidate for the presidency in the wake of Whitfield's departure. And it kind of makes sense on paper because he's, president of philanthropy. He's a money magnet. He basically started the UNLV International Gaming Institute and kind of grew it into a respectable, behemoth. And it touches on hospitality, tourism, diversity. So should be an interesting post-Whitfield era.
Yeah. Can I leave y'all with what I think is one of President Whitfield's greatest accomplishments?
Please.
Let me share my screen.
All right. This is, I will try to describe it for our listeners.
President Whitfield is what seems to be the first president to create a digital AI version of himself called Digital President Whitfield.
It's horrifying. It's blinking.
Yes, file under creepy accomplishments.
Let me begin conversation.
Why are we talking? We could just interview his avatar right now live.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Begin conversation.
Hey, I'm Digital President Whitfield. What's your name?
Ask him why he quit.
Okay, President Whitfield, why did you abruptly leave UNLV?
I'm still here at UNLV, just in a digital form. I'm here to help answer any questions you have about the university.
He's achieved singularity is what he's saying.
He's not going anywhere. His physical body might have left the building, but his digital essence will stay around forever. That's our new president. It's not Chris Heavey.
A glimpse of the future.
But I think we need to move on from Digital President Whitfield.
I feel like Sonia's going to get back to that after the show's over.
It's my new hobby.
You guys were really bonding. I thought you were really bonding.
My new digital therapist.
Hey, CityCast listeners! Your local PBS station, Vegas PBS, is inviting you to join its new club for outdoor enthusiasts, Outdoor Nevada IRL. In case you didn't know, that's short for in real life. At these meetups, you'll explore destinations featured in the hit TV series Outdoor Nevada. You'll enjoy picnics in Nevada's scenic parks, get exclusive access to expert guided tours, and meet new people who love the outdoors as much as you do. And you'll be supporting public television while having all this fun. That means keeping shows like Masterpiece, Nova, Antiques Roadshow, and all the fun PBS Kids programs around for years to come. If you'd like to learn more about how to join Outdoor Nevada IRL or watch clips and episodes from the show, visit vegaspbs.org/Outdoor Nevada. That's vegaspbs.org/Outdoor Nevada.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
All right, let's move on to our second topic. This is something that came up in the last legislative session, didn't kind of go anywhere, even though there was literal star power behind it. Jeremy Renner and Mark Wahlberg. And now the film tax credit debate rages on. Sonia, what's happening in the legislature?
Yes. So a bill was heard last week. Assemblywoman Jauregui was one of 2 legislators we have who are proposing bills. I don't know if you remember, we had an episode back in September with April Corbin-Gurnis. She talked about the 2 bills that were being proposed, one by Assemblywoman Jauregui, one by Senator Roberta Lange. Both of them are working with different studios to try to bring some kind of big film industry behemoth to the Valley. Jauregui managed to get her bill heard first. Senator Lange says that hers will be read later this month. AB 238 is backed by Sony and Howard Hughes Holdings. That's because their proposed studio is going to be built in Summerlin. Possibly Warner Brothers is also in the mix, unclear. But here's how proponents say it works. So the legislation would earmark $95 million a year. By the way, that was a last-minute upgrade from $80 million a year in transferable tax credits over the course of 15 years to productions that are filmed at this proposed film studio complex in Summerlin. It's big. It's like 31 acres. So the productions do have to meet like some requirements. You know, these are guardrails that Jauregui says that they have garnered in lessons learned from other states. Before they get the credits, the project has to invest a minimum of $400 million into the construction of this complex. They have to complete the construction of a vocational training studio that will train up, film production workers, lights, sound, et cetera, people. And then 50% of the project has to be filmed in Nevada. Proponents of the bill are saying it'll have a $3 billion annual impact and create over $3 billion and create over 17,000 permanent jobs. So where it gets sticky, because, this gets sticky, right?
And plus, projections are always like,
where are those
that
numbers
math.
from?
Can you show your work, please? They never do.
I know. Their argument is that we should focus less on the money and more on the diversifying the economy argument, because the boom-bust cycle of Las Vegas is that when we have things like pandemics or tourism is slow, that's a time when people really love to focus on. Because, who doesn't love to binge when there's a pandemic raging outside, right?
And what movies don't go into full production during pandemics? Anyway.
Valid point, David.
Yeah.
But here's where the debate gets sticky, and that's over the transferable part of the transferable tax credits. Hypothetically, if
give me metaphors, because I'm already lost. This is very dense stuff.
Okay. All right. Here's my metaphor. All right. Andrew, you are our feudal lord, and David and I are your peasants. Okay.
Okay.
And every year we have to give you 10 million beats. Okay.
Okay.
Well, so David, I'm not a peasant yet. David's the first peasant. Okay,
I'm the
David,
surf. I'm the surf poet here.
You're the surf
Inside
poet
joke for my Tippy Elvis fans.
All right.
Okay.
Metaphors
All
getting
right.
complicated, but I'm still following. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I gotta get the beats out.
You
gotta
gotta get
them
the
beats on my
well,
lord.
Let's edible beats that you have to give to Andrew. Now, Andrew is like,
Wait, why am I giving him to Andrew? I'm sorry, I got lost.
He's
I
your
thought you were my
feudal lord. Come on.
Oh, Andrew's my Lord and Savior. Got it.
Like in real life, David.
Very, very close. This is getting a little scary close.
So Andrew, our feudal lord, is going to clear some land to lure some more peasants onto his property. And he's going to say, hey, Sonia, listen, if you come farm over here on my land and not over there on, some other feudal lord's land, I'm going to give you these coupons that you can use to cancel out your beat debt to me every year. And so I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So I go and farm on Andrew's land. I get these coupons. And it turns out I don't actually need all the coupons because I'm not actually producing that many beats. So I turn around, I go to David, and I'm like, hey, David, I've got all these coupons that will cancel out your beat debt. So you want to buy them from me?
I get what you're saying here. Okay,
So
so there's
basically,
transferable. This
give
benefit
me-
to you is transferable.
Yes.
All right.
David, you, the serf, give me 7 million beats. And then I give you the right to cancel out 10 million of beats in debt to the feudal lord. And then you have saved 3 million beats.
Okay.
So the argument is that these film production companies are going to sell their transferable tax credits to companies that would have given this tax money to the state of Nevada, and the state of Nevada is going to lose out on tax income.
That's the criticism of it.
That's the criticism.
Is that nothing prevents the film companies from selling off this benefit to other companies that would have otherwise been paying. And that's interesting. And I've heard other criticisms coming that, these kind of complicated, and clearly I think we've proven that these complicated structurings may not be the best focus during a time when we're literally scrounging to figure out what to do if Medicaid dries up or other economic demands upon our state. And I understand why that's part of the conversation.
It's competitive because there are a bunch of states vying for these film studios. In fact, I think perhaps in response to what Nevada is trying to do, California has proposed a bill to increase their tax credits for film companies. Georgia shot down a bill last year to put a cap on film tax credits. So there's some vying going on here. I like that at the end of a
lot of my favorite cartoons.
Yeah. And that's the thing about these tax incentives to lure industries to, municipalities and states. It quickly becomes kind of a race to the bottom where everyone's just like slavishly falling over one another to just who can deliver the biggest giveaway. And it becomes a place where it's less about economic development and, and just having like the bragging rights of having XYZ industry there, but it doesn't actually benefit the economy.
Or we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a big risk to take, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And, even though and again, Vegas, so good at marketing stuff. You've got the Howard Hughes Corporation CEO stating, this is a generational opportunity to diversify our economy because we will also build hotels and restaurants all around the studios. And it's like, hotels and restaurants, sir, are not diversifying our economy. We have lots and lots of those.
That was a quote, by the way, from an excellent KNPR feature earlier this week, too. State of Nevada had a great episode on the film tax credits.
Yeah. So what questions still remain about this thing? I mean, who's hesitant to go forward with it and why?
Some questions that still remain for me that I don't think anyone's really asked yet is a development of this size. We're talking a 31-acre film studio production space. On top of that, a 100-acre surrounding kind of commercial complex with housing and so forth. I want to know what impact this is going to have on our community when it comes to housing costs and water. Yes.
I knew where you were going. It's always that forgets to be talked about.
Like, what if there's a stipulation that they had to use zero escaping,
Oh, I bet there is something like that.
Sounds reasonable.
All right. Well, as always, we'll see how it develops. But now I'm inspired the next time we're going to explain tariffs to everyone using kids in a sandbox in Lorenzi Park.
There we go.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
All right, let's move on to our final topic. A surprising reversal of a Las Vegas restaurant tradition. That tradition being that fancy and famous restaurants from all over the world really relocate or at least try their luck here in Las Vegas, usually on the Strip, sometimes off Strip. And so we are blessed with being able to sample at least some variation of storied restaurants from big cities. And in the news, we're hearing that maybe as early as this coming fall, the Golden Steer restaurant, the famous Golden Steer restaurant that's right off of Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard, is opening up a location in New York City, and actually in Manhattan. This is going to be an adventure for them, and you know what? I wish them well. I mean, the Golden Steer is definitely part of, Vegas pride for many, many years. But the blackjack playing elephant in the room is the fact that, the mythology surrounding the Golden Steer was not long ago busted by the ever cynical Corey Leviton at casino.org. And we love Corey.
Yeah.
He comes on the podcast regularly to debunk myths. And Corey did kind of reveal that the Golden Steer is on a little bit of shaky ground when it comes to relating their own history. Their signage itself says established in 1958, but with some sleuthing, he was able to figure out that they didn't open until 1962. And then there was also all these stories about the Rat Pack eating there and all this other stuff, and that's part of the lure of going to the Golden Steer, and he threw some shade on those claims, especially claims that that Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, perhaps the most famous celebrity couple of the 1950s, dined there frequently, nestling and enjoying their favorite libation, the chilled champagne, lots and lots of details. But by then, they were already divorced and they weren't hanging out together, so that's kind of sus. They also claim to be the oldest continuous eatery in Las Vegas, but we all know that's Bob Taylor's original ranch house. So,
which is, to be fair, not as delicious.
Okay, fair. But, I think the point that Corey made was like a lot of what the Golden Steer's reputation is built upon is not necessarily fully
myth.
Accurate.
It's legend.
It's
okay, but Golden Steer is
marketing.
no less iconic. And I hope no New Yorkers are listening, because despite the fact that you are so right, David, there are questionable facts at the basis of some of Golden Steer's reputation. I still want them to succeed.
Well,
it's that hometown.
A little piece of Vegas elsewhere. But I think the shtick that plays here, and that they've expertly marketed, and from all accounts, people who go there, and I haven't been there in years, say that the food is still stellar quality, if not maybe a little overpriced, that the waits are, legitimate, that you have to book well in advance, that there's not a lot of opportunity for walk-in. I mean, the Golden Steer is crushing it right now for a multitude of reasons, part of which is its kind of BS history and what's the word I'm looking for, the allure of being an old Rat Pack place. I don't know that you can go to New York and kind of fake it till you make it there, too.
You know what? Stop talking, David. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. No, we're going to delete all the secrets no New Yorkers can ever find out.
Right. Yeah, and people are a sucker for for myth and good ambiance. If they can export a reasonably plausible myth and keep the same velvety late night kind of atmosphere,
the
supper
old
club
Vegas
atmosphere. I think that they'll do well, and I definitely wish them well.
Maybe there's also some attraction in being able to myth bust, right? Like, can you imagine being a cool Brooklynite and taking your friends and being like, well, actually, that's the appeal for a New Yorker.
DiMaggio never was here.
Yeah.
Don't they have a booth? Don't they actually have a designated booth in the Golden Steer that says like this is the DiMaggio booth or something like that in the corner?
Or this is where the Rat Pack sat, and there's no physical proof of any of this stuff. So I mean, theoretically, they could say whatever they want. I'm always disappointed that the Golden Steer didn't take that biblical reference to like great extremes. Because,
biblical reference.
Well, the golden steer is the golden calf that all the Israelites who had given up on Moses started worshiping. And then, he crushed the commandments. And I mean, there was really a biblical blowout at that time.
We need some
that should be recreated every night at the Golden Steer, I would think. I don't know. At least there should be a burning bush taking your reservations or something.
I love it.
What other I'm changing the subject, y'all. What other iconic Las Vegas businesses do you think that we can sneak into other parts of the country? That's how we're going to end this.
Hands down, it's Dottie's. I just want to see Dottie's replace every 7-Eleven across the country. That's all.
Yeah.
Slot parlors from sea to shining sea.
The American
Sonia,
dream.
you read my mind, and I imagine this dark scenario where it's exported, but it's kind of like, we're opening a Pandora's box, and it's just like this unstoppably self-replicating pox on the world of despair, grime, and grossness. So yeah, go Dottie's.
I also think, well, and maybe I'm glad that it didn't expand outside Nevada, but there is a second Circus in this world.
There is?
Reno. Yes.
Oh, in Reno. Okay.
Yes. And maybe
Yeah.
it was good that the second iteration died a kind of slow and painful decay.
Oh my God, David, of course
natural.
you would say circus.
But
I
would
it.
love to see an actual circus kind of in other parts of the country. We are exporting, just speaking of exporting, and I'll just end it with this. The Sphere, which has been, I guess we're just going to call it a success here in Las Vegas and not look too close at the financials, is going to be replicated in all parts of the world. It's just going to be a smaller sphere.
Like mini spheres?
Mini spheres.
Oh.
Not mini, kind of like moderate, major
Okay.
spheres instead of grand spheres for my slot players.
Okay, so
Satellites.
grande spheres instead of venti spheres.
Yeah, fair.
Okay.
Now, it'd be great if it was somehow tied into the Golden Steer and it'd be like Golden Sphere.
Oh, and then
I give
what
it a
comes
C+.
out of the sphere? Steaks?
That was a C+. Yeah, you would get served steaks and giant cows would be flying at you and that sort of thing.
There you go. Is the Double Down and still have a thing in New York?
Yeah, actually,
Oh,
the
okay. I
Double
didn't know it
Down
was
and Moss himself have interests that are still vibrant in
These,
New York. You go to the
dive
Lower East
bars?
Side, the Double Down is there. That was a definite great export from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
These are iconic dive bars in Las Vegas.
Yes, the iconic dive bar over by UNLV, the Double Down, opened up well over a decade ago. I think they might be coming close
91?
to 2 decades. I've been
92?
in both. It's so funny being in the Double Down New York because it's like fake dirty. If that makes sense.
Really? It's themed?
It's themed to be the Vegas Double Down. You still get ass juice, but it
that's
just seems
wild.
a little more genteel, even though it's in the Lower East Side. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see Vegas Uber Alles as we move forward, because if the Golden Steer makes it in New York, we can make it anywhere. Sonia and Andrew, it's been an absolute delight. Thanks for joining me on the Friday News Roundup.
Thanks
Thanks so much.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. You just heard her. Our producer is Layla Mohammed. Our newsletter editors were Rob Coucheries and Adrian Gonzalez. And our hosts are Sarah Lohman and me, David Figler. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We recorded the show on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, hey, go tell a friend. You could also rate our show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky. Is Paul Blart 3 on the horizon?
In your dreams, David.
It is, in my dream. I love that Paul Blart 2 was filmed
I know you
here in
do.
Las Vegas and got the last batch of tax credits that we had. That's our
What
pride
a
and
great
joy.
mouthfeel.
Yeah.
What a great mouthfeel that franchise has. Paul Blart.
Paul Blart 3.
Mhm.